I thought spending the night at my best friend's house would be just another summer evening. Movies, junk food, the usual. But the moment his dad looked at me, like he could see right through me, something shifted. I wasn't prepared for the heat between us, or where it would lead when no one else was around. The first time I saw the ocean that summer, it felt like time paused, just long enough for me to take a full breath. Olivia had the windows down as we drove along the winding coastal road, his playlist blaring something upbeat while the salty air whipped through our hair. We were freshly graduated, still glowing with that wild sense of freedom that comes right before your life changes forever. College was just around the corner, but for now it was just the two of us, and a long weekend at his dad's beach cabin. Alex's place was nestled between two towering dunes, weathered, sun-bleached, and wrapped in a porch that creaked with every shift of the wind. I'd been there once before, years ago, but this time, something felt different. Maybe because I was older now. Maybe because I was seeing things I hadn't noticed before. Or maybe because Jason's dad didn't look quite how I remembered him. Alex greeted us from the porch with a cold drink in hand, smiling like someone who'd mastered the art of living slowly. He wore loose board shorts and a faded gray tank top that clung to his chest in the sticky breeze. His hair was longer now, sun-kissed and brushed back. His face relaxed in that effortlessly confident way some men have. He looked younger than most guys in their 40s, tanned, fit, and totally unfazed by time. "About time you two showed up," he said, stepping down to grab one of our bags. Olivia rolled his eyes with a grin. "Blame traffic, and he needs a snack stop every hour." I laughed. "Hey, road trip rules. Gas, snacks, and bad music." Alex smirked, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Good to see you again. You're taller." His hand lingered just a beat too long before he turned away. "Come on, let's get you two settled." Inside, the cabin was warm and lived in. Driftwood walls, open windows, the scent of salt and pine drifting through. Olivia led me to the guest room, while Alex disappeared into the kitchen. I tried to shake the strange flutter in my chest, the one that started when Alex looked at me like he hadn't expected me to grow up. The first day passed like something out of a postcard. Barefoot walks on the beach, iced drinks on the porch, and a lazy dinner while the sky melted into pinks and oranges. Alex was easy to talk to, quick to laugh, and always watching in that quiet, observant way people do when they've spent a lot of time alone. I caught him glancing at me once, while I laughed at something Olivia said, but I brushed it off. Maybe he was just surprised by how much we'd grown. That night, we stayed up late watching movies. Olivia passed out halfway through, sprawled on the couch with popcorn scattered across his chest. Alex and I stayed up a little longer, the flickering screen casting soft shadows on his face. Eventually, I said goodnight and slipped off to bed. But even under the light cotton sheets, I couldn't shake the way he looked at me in the dark. The next day, Olivia got a call from his girlfriend, Mia. Something had happened with her mom, some kind of drama, and she begged him to come back and help. He looked torn, but I waved him off. "Dude, go! You've been missing her all week." "You sure?" he asked, already grabbing his keys. "Positive. It's just one afternoon." He grinned. "All right, don't let my dad rope you into any weird yoga routines." I laughed. No promises. After he left, the cabin felt quieter. I wandered out to the back deck, the ocean breeze warm against my skin. Alex was down near the shoreline, shirtless again, adjusting the old kayak. He looked up, spotted me, and waved me over. "Water's perfect today. You swim?" "Yeah," I said, already pulling off my shirt. "Might be the only way to survive this heat." I dove in, letting the cold rush of the ocean sweep away the sticky warmth clinging to me. I floated there for a while, eyes closed, letting the sun kiss my face and the waves rock me gently. When I finally swam back to shore, Alex was waiting near the bottom of the steps with a towel in hand. "Good timing," he said, tossing it to me. "Ever tried the sauna? The one out back?" I asked, catching my breath. He nodded. "It's nothing fancy, but after a swim, it's the perfect way to relax. Clears your head." "Sounds kinda nice," I admitted, squeezing the water from my hair. Water still dripped from my hair as I stepped up onto the deck. "I'll fire it up," Alex said, already heading toward the small wooden shed tucked beside the dune grass. Come by at 10. When I stepped into the sauna later that night, the heat wrapped around me like a second skin. The air was thick with cedar and steam, the only light seeping in through narrow wooden slats. I sank onto the bench, a towel around my waist, and closed my eyes. I told myself this was just a sauna, nothing unusual, but my heart was already racing. The door creaked open, and Alex stepped inside. "Hope you don't mind," he said, his towel riding low on his hips. "Thought you might want some company." I didn't answer right away. He sat across from me, relaxed, one leg stretched out like he owned the space. The sauna was small, and suddenly the heat felt heavier, harder to breathe through. "You tense?" he asked after a while, his voice calm. "Not really," I lied. "Sauna's great for loosening up. You just have to let go." I nodded, but my mouth felt too dry to reply. His gaze wasn't obvious, but I could feel it. Subtle, curious, tracing over me like a whisper. A drop of sweat rolled down his chest, carving a path down his torso. I looked away. Then his hand brushed my knee. Just a light touch. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe not. "You okay?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Yeah," I said quickly, shifting in my seat. The silence stretched, heavier this time. But he didn't say more. Eventually, he stood, steam curling around him as he reached for the door. "I'll give you some space," he said, his hand lingering on the frame for just a second longer than it had to. When he left, I finally exhaled. I hadn't even realized I'd been holding my breath. I stayed there a little longer, the air thick not just with steam, but with questions I couldn't quite sort out. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The sound of the waves was slow and steady in the distance, but my mind wouldn't rest. I kept seeing the way he'd looked at me in the sauna. Calm, knowing. Like he understood something about me I hadn't even admitted to myself. I rolled over, pulling the sheets tighter, telling myself nothing had happened, telling myself it didn't mean anything. But even then, I wasn't sure I believed it. Now looking back, I know that moment was the beginning. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the room, painting everything in soft gold. I hadn't slept much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Alex sitting across from me, sweat glistening on his skin, his gaze just shy of too much. That small touch, I'd replayed it over and over, trying to figure out if it meant something or if I'd imagined it all. Downstairs, the smell of fresh coffee brought me back to the present. Olivia stood at the counter in a t-shirt and boxers, his hair a mess, eating cereal like nothing had changed. "Sleep okay?" he asked between bites. I shrugged and grabbing a mug. "Yeah, fine." He looked over at me sideways. "You're quiet this morning." "Everything's cool," I said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just still waking up." He didn't press. Olivia never did. That was something I liked about him. He always gave space when you needed it. Alex came in from the deck a few minutes later, already dressed in a faded blue tank top and cargo shorts. His eyes met mine for just a second too long before he turned away to pour himself a drink. I felt my skin prickle. "Morning," he said, voice as calm as ever. "Morning," I mumbled, keeping my eyes on my coffee. We spent the morning around the cabin. Olivia and I played cards on the porch while Alex stayed busy in the shed. I tried to act normal, like nothing was out of place, but my eyes kept drifting toward him. The way he moved, the way he'd occasionally glance back and catch me watching, always with that unreadable look. Around noon, Jason's phone rang again. He answered it in the kitchen, and I could tell from his tone it was going to be another long one. Eventually, he popped his head outside. "She's freaking out again," he said, half laughing. "Her mom's losing it over some college paperwork. I gotta go calm her down." "Another rescue mission?" I teased. "Yep, hero boyfriend duties." He grabbed his keys. "You sure you're cool here alone again?" "I'll survive," I said with a smirk. "Dad's around. Try not to let him bore you to death." Alex raised an eyebrow from his spot at the workbench. "Charming as always," he said dryly. Olivia laughed, blew a kiss to the air, and disappeared down the drive in a cloud of gravel and dust. Just like that, I was alone. Again. Alone with Alex again, I stood in the doorway for a moment, unsure where to go or what to do. He set his wrench down on the dock rail and glanced over his shoulder. Feel like giving me a hand? He asked. Unless you've got better plans? I hesitated. Sure. What are we fixing? He nodded toward the side of the dock where a warped board sagged. One of the planks is rotting. Got to replace it before someone falls through and breaks their back. I chuckled and stepped onto the sun-bleached dock. The breeze from the water was warm but soft, carrying the scent of salt and old wood. Alex crouched by the edge, prying at the board. I dropped down beside him and took the screwdriver he handed me. For a while we worked in silence, the kind that felt easy until it didn't. I was too aware of how close we were, how his leg brushed mine now and then, the way he smelled like sweat, sunscreen, and something else I couldn't name. I reached for a nail and shifted, almost slipping. His hand caught the small of my back. Firm, warm, steady, a little too long. Careful, he murmured, voice low near my ear. This dock isn't what it used to be. I nodded, stiff, trying not to breathe too deeply, trying not to notice how his hand still lingered. Eventually, I stood and wiped my palms on my shorts, forcing a casual tone. Think that's good for now. Alex looked up, squinting against the sun. Yeah, good work. His voice held something unspoken. Back inside, I grabbed a bottle of water and tried to cool off, but it wasn't the heat that had my heart racing. Alex walked past into the kitchen, and I felt the space between us shift again. Closer, tighter. You okay? He asked, casual but watching me carefully. Yeah, just hot. He tilted his head slightly, then smiled. The sauna's probably ready. I blinked. You turned it on? Figured you might want to relax again. It helps, right? I hesitated. Every part of me screamed not to go, but I nodded anyway. Sure, why not? The sun was still high when I stepped inside the sauna again. Steam curled through the air, like something alive. I sat down, towel tight around my waist, focusing on the scent of cedar instead of the pounding in my chest. A few minutes later, the door creaked open. Alex stepped in, only a towel slung low on his hips. No shirt, his skin already glistening with sweat. He sat across from me again, legs relaxed, arms resting behind his head in a way that felt anything but casual. Neither of us spoke. Then in that steady voice he said, You've changed a lot since the last time you were here. I looked up, startled. What do you mean? He shrugged. You've grown into yourself. It's not just the height. You're different. Heat rose up my neck, and it had nothing to do with the sauna. I guess we all change. He met my eyes. Yeah, but not everyone notices it the same way. I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, then closed again. My pulse roared. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You're not a kid anymore. The words hit me like a wave. I stood up fast, grabbing my towel. I should go for a walk or something. I moved to the door, fumbling with the latch, heart hammering. Then I felt his hand on my arm. Not forceful, just there. Steady. Hey, he said softly. You don't have to run. I froze. His hand was warm against my skin, and I didn't pull away. I didn't know why. The silence stretched. All I could hear was our breathing and the low hiss of steam, and I wasn't sure what scared me more, his touch, or how much I didn't want him to let go. But there was more still to come. By the third day, the weather had softened into something warm and slow, like even the world wanted me to stop resisting. Olivia woke early, rummaging through the cabin for his wallet and muttering about running into town for dinner supplies. I offered to come, desperate for distraction, but he waved me off. It's just a quick run, he said, tossing me the last slice of cold pizza. You stay and relax. Dad's probably got a project waiting for you anyway. I didn't argue. Maybe some part of me knew I needed to face whatever was building between me and Alex. The silences, the touches, the words that lingered too long. When Jason's car disappeared down the dirt road, I stood barefoot on the deck, chewing pizza and staring out at the lake. It was calm, still, the kind of stillness that begged to be broken. I felt him before I saw him. Alex always arrived like that, like a shift in pressure, a change in the air. He came up from the dock, wiping grease from his hands with a rag, eyes scanning me like he was trying to read something just beneath the surface. You got a minute? He asked. I nodded, my voice stuck somewhere in my chest. Yeah, walk with me. We moved in silence down the dock. The sun was warm on my shoulders, the wood creaking under our feet. He stopped near the end, leaning against a post, eyes on the horizon. About yesterday, he started. I didn't say anything. He looked at me, then let out a quiet breath. I need to say this, and you don't have to say anything back. But I felt something in that sauna, and I know you did too. My jaw tightened. It was just heat, a small space. I don't know what you think happened. You looked at me like you wanted me to touch you, he said. The words cut through everything. And when I did, you didn't stop me. I was surprised, I said, but even I didn't believe it. You weren't scared, he replied. You were curious, maybe confused, but not scared. I looked away, throat tight. His voice was low, tighter now, more vulnerable. I haven't felt anything in a long time, he said. Not like that. Not real. After the divorce, it's just been quiet, not lonely exactly, just still. Like nothing inside me moved for so long, I forgot what it felt like when something finally did. I turned to look at him slowly. His eyes weren't predatory. They weren't even seductive. They were open, bare, honest. I'm not trying to mess with your head, he said gently. I don't want to hurt you, but I also can't pretend there's nothing between us, and I don't think you can either. I didn't answer, but the silence between us didn't feel empty. It trembled, charged, waiting. Come inside, he said finally, his voice soft but steady. We walked together up the dock, the cabin glowing quietly beneath the late afternoon sun. Inside, Alex poured us each a drink, bourbon, dark and sharp, and flicked on an old stereo tucked into the corner. Music drifted through the room, soft piano notes that felt like something pulled from memory. The lights stayed low. He didn't say much. He handed me a glass, our fingers brushing, and sat on the couch across from me. I sat too, the cushion dipping gently beneath my weight. The bourbon burned down my throat, warming me from the inside out, but doing nothing to calm the storm in my chest. He set his glass down and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. If I'm wrong, he said quietly, just tell me now. I didn't. He stood slowly and walked over until he was right in front of me, his hand lifted, not to grab, not to pull, just to touch. His fingers brushed my cheek, his thumb grazing the edge of my jaw. I held my breath. Every nerve in my body was alive. I can stop, he whispered. Just say the word. But I didn't say anything. I didn't stop him. And when he leaned in, his lips found mine in a kiss that wasn't urgent or rough. It was slow, careful, like he was asking a question and giving me the space to answer. I didn't pull away. I let the kiss happen. Let it settle into me like sunlight through a window. His hand cupped my cheek, his thumb brushing gently just beneath my eye. The other hand rested lightly on my knee, not moving, not pushing, just there. The kiss ended, but we didn't move far. Our foreheads hovered close, nearly touching. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I can stop, he said again, voice barely more than a breath. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. But I didn't want him to stop. I didn't want to lie, not to him and not to myself. So I shook my head, just slightly, and I looked into his eyes. Then I let him kiss me again. And this time, I kissed him back. I don't know how long we stayed like that, wrapped in silence, in warmth, in something neither of us had the courage to name. After that second kiss, we didn't talk much. He held me close, his thumb lightly brushing my cheek. I let myself rest my forehead against his chest. The music played on, quiet and slow, like even the outside world had softened to match the rhythm between us. Eventually I stood to leave, unsure of what any of this meant, or what would come next. But just as I stepped toward the hallway, I heard him say softly behind me, "This doesn't have to end here." And I knew it wouldn't. Hours passed. The sky turned lavender as evening deepened. Olivia called around dusk. "Hey," he said as casually as always. "Mia's having a night. Think I'll just crash here and head back in the morning." I told him that was fine. More than fine, really. My voice stayed calm, but my stomach twisted as soon as I hung up. The sun had dipped below the horizon. The beach outside had gone quiet, just the soft hush of waves brushing the sand. The cabin was warm and dimly lit. Alex was still in the living room, lounging with a half-full glass of bourbon. The music played low, soft piano, faint strings, slow, hazy, like the lingering heat in the air. He looked up when I walked in. "No Jason?" I shook my head. "Staying at Mia's." Alex nodded slowly. "Guess it's just us again." The words hung in the air, no longer casual. He reached over and nudged the volume up just a little, not enough to drown anything out, just enough to blur the edges of the silence. He gestured to the armchair across from him. "Sit with me." I crossed the room, my heart pounding harder with every step. The lights were low and amber, casting soft shadows against the old wooden walls. My skin felt hot, but whether it was the bourbon, the night air, or him, I didn't know. I sat, close enough that when he looked at me I could feel it. "I meant what I said earlier," he murmured. "I'm not trying to pressure you." I nodded, staring into my glass. "But," he added, leaning forward, "if you're still here right now, if you haven't walked away, then maybe you feel it too." He wasn't smiling. No teasing in his tone, just a raw kind of honesty that settled inside me like heat. I looked up. "I don't know what this is." "Neither do I," he said. "But it doesn't feel like nothing. Does it?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He reached out, his fingers brushing over mine, slow, careful. My breath caught, but I didn't pull away. I let him take the glass from my hand and set it down. Then he stood, and so did I. Not because I thought it through, because my body already had. He moved closer, one hand on the side of my neck, the other at my waist, drawing me in. Not forceful, just firm enough to show he meant it. His lips met mine again, slow and sure, and everything inside me let go. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't clumsy. It was like we'd been circling this moment for days and maybe longer. And now that it was here, it didn't crash in. It soaked through us, slow and deep. I leaned into him, hands on his chest, feeling the thud of his heartbeat against mine. The kiss deepened. His hands moved to my back, steady, grounding, and I let myself get lost in it, in him. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. He pulled me gently, guiding us to the couch without breaking the kiss. The music wrapped around us, soft and smooth, filling the spaces between our breaths. His hands moved with care, over my sides, my arms, my face, every touch deliberate, respectful, but undeniable. When his fingers slipped under my shirt, I didn't stop him. I lifted my arms and he pulled it off slowly, like he was memorizing every inch. My skin prickled as he looked at me, not with hunger, but something far more dangerous, tenderness. "You sure?" he asked, his voice quiet, lips just inches from mine. I nodded. Words wouldn't come. Clothes slipped away like sunlight fading outside, bit by bit, layer by layer, until there was nothing between us but breath and warmth, and the kind of need that doesn't shout but hums steady beneath the skin. His body pressed against mine, solid, certain, and unshaking. When he leaned over me, I didn't feel scared. I felt wanted, not as a secret or a mistake, but as someone being seen. It wasn't wild or rushed, it was soft, slow. We explored each other with hands and mouths, every movement careful, every touch asking permission, every breath a silent answer. We took our time, and somewhere between the quiet gasps and the warmth of skin against skin, I realized I didn't want it to end. We did it. The only sound was our moans, low and quiet. Afterward, we lay there in silence, sweat cooling on our skin while soft music hummed in the background. The room felt suspended in time, like even the air knew something had changed between us. Alex sat up slowly, reaching for the throw blanket and pulling it over both of us. He looked down at me, not smiling, not regretful, just still. "This can't be casual," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not for me. If it's not real, I can't." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. I looked at him, my chest still rising and falling too fast, and nodded. Okay, I whispered. We stayed like that for a while, saying nothing. Eventually, I fell asleep on his chest, lulled by the rise and fall of his breath and the steady thump of his heartbeat. Just after dawn, I heard it, the crunch of tires on gravel. Jason. Panic gripped me. I sat bolt upright, heart racing. Alex was already awake, pulling on his sweats and hoodie quickly, calmly, like he'd done it before. I fumbled for my shirt, legs tangled in the blanket. Just before I ran down the hall, Alex caught my wrist gently. "No one has to know," he said, locking eyes with mine. "But don't pretend it didn't mean something." I stared at him for a second longer, nodded once, and slipped away. Down the hall, into the guest room, door closed just before Jason's footsteps reached the porch. I sat on the bed, barely breathing. My skin still tingled. The air was cool now, but inside me everything still burned. I didn't know what had changed between us, only that something had. And I had no idea what came next. The morning should have felt normal. Olivia moved around the kitchen, pouring cereal with the kind of sleepy ease that comes from an uninterrupted night. The sun streamed through the windows like nothing was different, like the air wasn't still thick with what had happened just hours before. But everything had changed. I sat at the table, pretending to scroll through my phone, pretending to care about anything outside the cabin. But every nerve in my body still hummed with the memory of Alex. The couch, his hands, the way his breath felt against my skin. My lips still tingled. My muscles held the echo of his touch, like fingerprints pressed into clay. Olivia didn't notice that I couldn't look at his dad. He didn't see how my spoon shook every time it scraped the bowl. If he noticed that Alex moved slower that morning, or how we avoided each other's eyes, he didn't say a word. And thank God for that, because if he had looked even a little closer, he would have seen it, that I couldn't stop reliving it, because we hadn't stopped. We hadn't stopped anything. That morning was only the beginning. Every time Olivia stepped away, grabbed a drink from the cooler, ran an errand into town, walked the shoreline alone, Alex and I found each other again. Sometimes it was just a touch. Sometimes it was more. Always rushed, always quiet, but never careless. Behind the laundry room door while Olivia grilled outside. In the guest room while he showered, the water hiding every sound. On the back deck after midnight, our voices barely louder than the wind. Alex had this way of finding me, of making time bend around us, like the rules didn't apply unless someone was watching. And somehow we never got caught. But it was tearing me apart, because with every secret kiss, I slipped deeper into something I couldn't explain. I knew it couldn't last, not like this, but the thought of it ending made my chest ache in ways I wasn't ready to face. By the last morning of our stay, something had shifted again, not between us, between him. Alex had grown distant. He still looked at me, but it was different now, longer, heavier, like there was something he needed to say but couldn't. Olivia made coffee, chatting about a bonfire happening that night down the beach. "We should swing by," he said, already texting Mia. "Some of the guys from school are going." I nodded, my mouth dry. "Sounds fun." Alex stood by the sink, scrubbing a dish that didn't need it, his knuckles white against the sponge. He hadn't said more than 5 words to me all morning. Later that afternoon, Olivia went into town again to grab firewood and supplies. He offered to bring me, but I said I needed a nap. Truth was, I just needed a break from pretending. Alex was out on the deck again, shirtless, hammer in hand, fixing the loose railing. I watched from inside, pacing like something trapped. I didn't know what I wanted to say, only that I had to say something. So I stepped outside, the screen door clicking softly behind me. He didn't turn. "Hey," I said. He looked up. The sunlight caught his face, highlighting the lines near his eyes. "Hey." Silence. I sat on the bench near the railing. The wood was warm beneath me. "You've been quiet," I said, my voice low. "So have you." He put the hammer down, wiped his hands on a rag, and leaned back against the post. "I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk." "I don't know what I want," I admitted. He nodded. "I figured." The waves broke gently along the shore. Somewhere in the trees, a bird called, like time reminding us it was still moving. "Do you regret it?" I asked. He looked at me then. Really looked, like he was seeing something buried deep. No, he said, not even for a second. My throat tightened. But I respect you, he went on, and I know you're young. You've got a whole life ahead of you. I don't want this to be some secret you carry like a weight. I didn't know what to say, because the truth was, I didn't know how I felt. Was I confused? Yes. Scared? Absolutely. But did I want it to stop? Not even a little. I just don't know what this is, I said. It's whatever you want it to be, he replied, stepping closer. But it doesn't have to end here. Not unless you want it to. The way he said it, soft with no pressure, felt like an open door instead of a trap, and something in me crumbled. I nodded, blinking hard. He gave me a soft smile, then gently squeezed my shoulder before walking past me into the house. That night, we all sat around the bonfire. The flames cast a warm orange glow over everyone. Elena was curled up beside Jason, laughing at something he said. I sat across from them, alone in a beach chair, arms folded against the breeze. Alex stood a few feet away, nursing a beer while chatting with a couple closer to his age. But he kept looking over. And every time our eyes met, the air between us felt thinner, heavier. Later, once the fire burned out and the beach had emptied, we walked back to the cabin. Olivia and Elenatus appeared into his room, still whispering and laughing as the door clicked shut behind them. I wandered barefoot into the kitchen, the cool floor reminding me just how cold the night had become. Alex was already there, leaning against the counter in the dark. The fridge cast a faint light across his face. We didn't say anything. I stepped closer. He didn't move, just reached out slowly and let the back of his fingers graze mine. The touch was so light, so brief, but it said everything. This doesn't have to be over, he whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. Unless you want it to be. I didn't answer. I just stood there staring at our hands. His pinky brushed mine again, like a silent promise. That night, I lay in bed alone. Door locked, covers pulled tight, but I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing him, hearing him, feeling him. Was this just a summer moment, a mistake, or the beginning of something more? I didn't know yet, but I knew one thing. I wanted to find out. So tell me, if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you walk away, or would you risk everything for someone who made you feel alive?